Welcome, everyone, to Howard University's Martin Luther King Jr. Service and Justice Day. This is coordinated by the Office of the Dean of the Chapel, and I'm so excited about today, and I'm always excited about the passion and commitment of Howard University students for faith, service, and justice. I'm going to bring before you now Ms. Andrea J. Davis, the Assistant Dean for Faith-Based and Community Initiatives, who will guide us in our program. Ms. Davis?
Thank you, Dean. Good morning, Howard University students, faculty, staff, alumni, and friends. Thank you for joining us today for Howard University's Martin Luther King Jr. Service and Justice Day. For those of you all who are joining us on Zoom and via YouTube, please let us know where you're from, where you're tuning in from by dropping all that information in the chat. We are so grateful that you've joined us this morning. Today, we have a unique opportunity as a partner with the Presidential Inauguration Committee to both support our very soon-to-be Vice President and Howard alumna, Kamala Harris, and honor the life and legacy of honorary Howard alumnus, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As you all know, Dr. King was a visionary whose life was dedicated to elevating the issues of equity to a moral crusade. Ironically, despite Dr. King's attempt to pump morality into the veins of this nation and advocate for world peace, he was not exempt from being treated unjustly, arrested, investigated, and beaten. Still, he persisted. This week especially, we would be remiss to not also mention the tireless efforts of social justice leader and beacon of hope for the civil rights movement, Coretta Scott King. Mrs. King, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, continued Dr. King's mission after his assassination with the formation of the King Center by fighting apartheid in South Africa, and most notably after a long and persistent campaign that began soon after Dr. King's assassination. She ensured that the values which her husband dedicated his life would always be remembered by gaining recognition of his birth as an annual federal holiday. The first Martin Luther King Jr. Day was celebrated in 1986. I'd like to now introduce another trailblazing woman, Ms. Cynthia Wheeler. Ms. Wheeler is a graduate student in the Howard University School of Divinity's Religious Studies program and one of our graduate students for the Andrew Rankin Memorial Chapel. She is also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Ms. Wheeler?
Good morning. Everyone, please get into whatever prayer position is most comfortable for you. God, Creator, and Source, first we come to say thank you. Thank you for bringing us here safely and for allowing us the space here to connect in the midst of this pandemic. We ask that you be with those who are sick, who are caring for loved ones, or who are in mourning as we speak. As we celebrate this National Day of Service, we ask that you bind our hearts together for your will. Let today renew our commitment to Dr. King's message of justice and compassion for the oppressed and love for our fellow human. God, we ask that you let today be a catalyst for change in each of us. A change that every day opens our eyes, ears, and our hearts to the cries of those who would benefit from our help. Help us, God, to have the resolve to persist until we see justice done for our friends who call on us from the margins. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Wheeler. As many of you know, Dr. King was only 15 years old when he was accepted to Morehouse College. At the age of 19, he was ordained as a minister at Ebenezer Baptist Church. And on December 10th, at the age of 35, Martin Luther King Jr. became the youngest person to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. His dedication to service was cemented in his youth, and his legacy is alive through leaders of all ages, especially young leaders on campuses like Howard University, Morehouse College, Spelman College, and HBCUs across the nation. Because of students and student leaders who challenge the status quo and remain the torch bearers of our future. We're curious, for those who are watching, again, on Zoom and via YouTube, why do you serve? Let us know in the chat below. We next have the pleasure of hearing some student reflections from student leaders. Today, we will be hearing from Michael Franklin, who is the Executive Vice President of the Howard University Student Association. We will hear from Sydney Montgomery, the Executive Student Director of Howard University Alternative Spring Break, and a student leader in the Office of the Dean of the Chapel. And finally, Timothy McDonald, who is the Vice President of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Beta Chapter, and our current Mr. Howard University. Let's start off with Mr. Franklin.
Good morning to everyone tuning in across the world. My name is Michael Franklin, and I am a graduating senior legal communications major by way of Kansas City, Kansas. And I am so proud to have the opportunity to speak with you all today. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "The time is always right to do what is right." And when we think of the importance of social justice on our campus and the impact of social justice that Howard students offer worldwide, the answer is clear, in that we represent the ideals and the standards of Howard University: truth, service, leadership, and excellence everywhere we go. In order to lead in social justice movements, we must always begin to center truth, because if we are not truthful in the justice we seek, then we will not be able to craft the change that is valid. If we do not lead with service, with the hope and the intent to serve other people, to serve our community, then our leadership will not lead to a path of social justice. I'm often reminded of the leadership that's provided by VP-elect Harris and her continued commitment to service of her community when she began that service at Howard University, running for a student office position that similar to the one that I currently hold today. When I think of excellence, I think of how in all work that members of our Howard University community participate and partake in, we always will ensure that we hold it to the highest standard, that we hold it to the standard of excellence in the work we do. And finally is leadership, because when we lead, we sometimes have to make uncomfortable decisions, but we make those uncomfortable decisions because we find what's necessary is that we do what is right. And as the Executive Vice President of the Howard University Student Association, now more than ever must we represent not only the views of the student body, but we must represent the views that will be able to lead our world on a path that is socially just. So I leave y'all with this call to action that is quite common. If not now, then when? If not here, then where? And if not us, then who? We have to do what's right, especially in this time, because the time is always right to do what is right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those words, Michael. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are doing well and staying safe. My name is Sydney Montgomery, and I'm a graduating senior political science and sociology double major, legal communications minor from Chino Hills, California. I also serve as the executive student director for the university's largest service program, Howard University Alternative Spring Break. Today, we celebrate the life and legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., an influential civil rights leader, champion for racial equality, and the definition of a true servant leader. Dr. King has always been an influential figure in my life. It's been my life's mission to serve others as much as possible. And this life mission led me to Howard University Alternative Spring Break. For 27 years, HUASB has been dedicated to serving marginalized and underserved communities, both domestically and internationally. 2020 was very unprecedented, and it challenged many people worldwide. We've seen the COVID-19 pandemic and racial injustice have an effect on marginalized communities across the globe. During this past year, I often reflected on the importance of honoring my call to service. And despite the hardships that we face in 2020, we must understand that our issues are interconnected, and injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We must continue to fight and serve. So today we have the opportunity to honor Dr. King and our ancestors that risked their entire lives serving humanity. Today, we also have the opportunity to honor countless essential workers who are tirelessly putting their lives on the line for us, serving us every single day. Not all heroes wear capes, and oftentimes we forget to show appreciation to those who are serving their communities every single day. I'm grateful that our service project today is dedicated to the everyday heroes in our own communities. I want to leave you all with one of my favorite quotes from Dr. King. He once said that everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to have your verbs and subject agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. Again, thank you all so much for taking the time out to serve with us on this Martin Luther King holiday. And please remember that the work that you'll do today is important, and that service is just a small part of paying it forward to ensure that we leave the world better than it was, just as Dr. King did. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Michael and Signy, for everything that you guys do for the Howard University campus. I am Timothy McDonald, a junior chemical engineering major from Baltimore, Maryland. I have the pleasure of serving as the vice president of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated Beta Chapter, as well as the 44th Mr. Howard University. As one of the most honorable and influential members of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. embodied what it means to be a true alpha man. An alpha man strives daily to perform manly deeds. He continues to reach the highest level of scholarship, and no matter the circumstances, he contains love for all mankind. This is the life and legacy that Dr. King left during his time on this earth. His actions have brought countless people together of all shapes and sizes, and he has taught even the youngest child that anyone can achieve their dream. It's these actions that help shape the work that our organization does to help to not only the students of Howard University, but impact the DC community as a whole. As a chapter, we host diverse events, including our annual Brother to Brother Conference, where we provide workshops for local middle and high school boys. These workshops are meant for students to grow academically, professionally, and gives them the necessary skills that prepare them for life after school. As iron sharpens iron, it is up to us, brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha, to use the tools that were passed down to us by great men like Martin Luther King Jr. to inspire the next generation of leaders and change makers. In this prolific time where a sneeze scares us more than a missing assignment, it's up to us to put on our activism hats and hit the ground running. Black men, women, and children have been systematically oppressed for hundreds of years. So as active members of the first African-American Greek letter organization, it allows us to shoulder this weight that our people have been bearing for far too long. It gives us the motivation to never stop trying to change the world one life at a time. Social justice is more than just defending what is right. It is a pathway that leads us into a future where equal rights actually mean equal, regardless of race, gender, or sexuality. A future where a child can look forward to going to school every day while not having to worry about getting harmed in his own neighborhood. A future where Black people are no longer getting trampled on by the system, but instead getting uplifted along with all other people of color. It's this future that we keep in mind when completing acts of social justice year in and year out. And it's this future that the late, great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would want for us all. Thank you all, and have a blessed day.
Thank you so much to our student leaders for those beautiful reflections. We have some comments in the chat from where you all are from. So it's so good to know that you all are joining us from all over. We have visitors from White Plains, New York, a Howard alum in Lanham, Maryland. We have visitors from our very own Washington, D.C., which of course we're keeping in prayer this week. Everybody, please keep the nation's capital lifted in prayer. One of our assistant deans commented, of course, that service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living on this earth. A quote from the greatest Shirley Chisholm. Good morning, welcoming good morning messages from Northwest Washington, D.C. Howard University class of 1974 in the house. We love to see our Howard alum. Thank you so much for supporting Ms. Jones. Ms. Wheeler says she serves because she believes everyone should have adequate resources to live and care for their families. Couldn't agree more. So thank you so much for all of you for including those reflections and your commentary in the chat. It makes it feel a little bit like we're together. Mr. Gregory Ficklin from Atlanta, Georgia, is a Howard University alum from the School of Business, class of 1990. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to also thank the Howard University leadership for their continued support, as well as the Presidential Inauguration Committee for ensuring that National Day of Service received the recognition that it deserved this year. There are several students who are volunteers we'll meet shortly over in the Zoom who decided to serve today, and we are so grateful for your selflessness, as well as the Office of the Dean of the Chapel staff who have worked so much behind the scenes to ensure today's project was a success. More than 5 decades ago, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his Remember Who You Are sermon at the Andrew Rankin Memorial Chapel. So as we conclude today's program, I ask that you all reflect on how you ensure that you and any organization that you are a member of remains true to your mission in the midst of the many challenges and uncertainties around us. Thank you so much for joining us, and I can't wait to serve together. Have a blessed day.
Keep on,